So I made a choice a while back that I wanted to keep a phone until the lights went out, okay? I wanted to actually use a phone like the old days when you bought something and you used it until you couldn't use it anymore. So I started to go on a search to find myself the perfect phone. And at the time, I was obviously using iOS, Apple, iPhone, okay? And it's been like 7 years since I ever actually touched or actually used an Android. Now, I was searching in all the wrong places. I went from having an iPhone 14 Pro Max that almost disabled my wrist because it was so heavy to actually buying an iPhone 13 mini. My goal has always been I want to lower my screen time, but at the same time, I don't want to have to worry about battery life. The problem with the iPhone 13 mini was basically that, hey, the phone is just sucks when it comes to battery. By 2 p.m., the battery was basically dead. And then I bought myself an iPhone 13 Pro, and that one was actually smaller than my iPhone 14 Pro Max, but then again, there were some hiccups. The battery wasn't as bad as the 13 mini, but it wasn't really that great. And on top of that, I still had to worry about lightning cables, although, for example, almost all the tech I have here is just USB-C. And again, I was meant, by the way, there's a certain simplicity with Apple that makes you just be on your phone for longer. I just learned that, okay? Apple is designed in a way to be on the phone for longer. I know they have the whole like screen time thing and all this stuff, but everything is just so easy to just basically skip over, and it's so hard to customize and make the phone like you actually want to make it. Now, my very last purchase was actually the iPhone SE, which is right here. This was actually my last iPhone. It was the iPhone SE 3rd generation, and it had the same chipset as my iPhone 13 Pro. I sold the iPhone 13 Pro for a good price, what I basically paid for it. I have been lucky with that. And this is the one I actually had. I paid $60 for it. It came with a cracked screen. I fixed the screen, and I was all in at around like around like $90, okay? It was a really good deal. But then I had another issue, right? The battery was still not that great, and the screen really wasn't that pretty. And then I realized maybe I'm just searching in the wrong places. I keep checking the Apple ecosystem, and I was almost this close to being willing to either buy an Apple 15 or an iPhone 15 because of the USB-C and it's like a better battery and all this other stuff, or just wait until the 4th generation SE, which was going to be released like, you know, with the whole notch, the bigger screen, all that stuff, but I don't know when that's gonna come out. So then I said to myself, there's no way I'm gonna pay so much money for a phone. And then I started to look into Android, and I discovered the Zenfone by Asus, and that phone is beautiful. It was small, it had everything I needed, the camera was great, the battery life was great, but there was only one problem. The phone had been discontinued, and there was no way that I, with the long-term mindset of owning a phone for a long time, was going to buy a phone that was discontinued. The parts were going to become extremely hard to find, and it was not going to be worth it. So I started to check with my old first smartphone, which was basically the Galaxy S7. I looked into their lineup, and what I found was they had the Samsung S24 or the Samsung S23. Now, here's the one I have, which you really can't see, but let me take off the case. Maybe you'll be able to actually see it. And yes, I got a MagSafe case because I have a lot of MagSafe accessories here. But here's the phone right here, okay? Here's the phone that I actually got. And I paid about $300 for it. And guess what? It's used and it's in perfect condition. Literally, no scratch on it. This guy basically kept it in the case. But the main reason I got this phone is because I looked into the Galaxy S24, and it was just too expensive right now because the phone just basically came out. And this right here is the Galaxy S23. I think this phone is awesome, and there's no real big difference between it and the Galaxy S24. It's more like some software gaps here and there, but everything's pretty much the same. Now, surprisingly, this phone right here The battery life is amazing. I'll go more into detail on those things later, but because this is a financial channel, I want to talk about the money perspective. One thing I like about the Samsung phone is that depreciation goes down like crazy. Basically saying the phone loses a ton of value very quickly, which is mostly because you can't keep the phone for as long because you don't get as many software updates. So on this phone right here, I got about, I think, like 4 more years of software updates and roughly like 4 to 5 more years of security updates. And to me, that's more than enough. In 5 years, I'll think about getting a new phone, but this phone is right for me. Now, because depreciation goes down so much, I basically got this phone for like a 52% discount. I saved $400 just by waiting 1 year. There's no way you can actually do that with Apple phones. They take a long time to lose value. But Tommy, isn't that also a bad thing for you because the longer you hold it, the more value it's going to lose? The answer is yes, but not really, because if you're keeping the phone for a long time and you're trying to get its full use out of it, you actually end up basically getting a cheap cost, okay? The phone's gonna cost me roughly $6 per month or like $7 per month to actually use. And for me, it's a great price, okay? It's a great price. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is basically, was it difficult for me to go from iOS to Android? The answer is, there is no big difference here. Like, it's not like, for example, like a Nokia, like the old ones, and a smartphone. Like, this is so different, it's so crazy. No, it's like basically, it's different in the sense of how you do different things basically, but like both phones are great. iOS is great, Android is great. You're not really gonna get like a worse experience anywhere. It's just that on an iPhone, I just dropped the phone for the first time here on camera. There you go. But it's just that on Android, there are things that just like are just like a little bit weirder to actually do. iOS makes things very simple, very easy to do, and it's always like with users in mind. Okay, what's the simplest way to get this done? Well, Android is like, how do you get this done? All right, let's make it happen and let's give them customization. That's what I kind of realized, but it was pretty easy. Okay, I basically just plugged in a wire, a lightning here, a USB-C here, and I had the whole smart switch happen and everything switched over, okay? Including my contacts, including even, for example, my notes. That's kind of crazy. My photos and where I took them, everything basically transferred except my passwords. But for my passwords, it really wasn't that complicated. I basically just, if you guys don't know this, you can go to the passwords on your iPhone and just click export them and then just use, for example, Samsung Pass and just basically import them. And then boom, you have all your passwords, less like 2 clicks. There are some things that I do miss about the iPhone, like for example, the AirDrop and the copy and paste feature. Like those things are just so simple and so seamless that when you're actually using them, you don't think about them, but it just works, okay? So in order for me to get information from my Android over to my laptop or over to my other phone, the answer is I need to install a third-party app. I think the app I'm using right now is called, let me find it. I think it's called like Send Anywhere. That's the app. So you can basically scan it with a QR code or whatever, but it's not the same. I miss the days where you could just send something over Bluetooth or just send something over Wi-Fi, and we didn't just have all these things to just keep you trapped in an ecosystem. And there's also the copy paste, man. Sometimes I want to copy something and I want to just click copy and copy it into my phone. Like, I don't know if you guys know that, but with like the iOS devices, I can basically be on my iPad, click copy, and basically just paste it into my phone, just like the same thing, okay? It's pretty awesome. I mean, that's awesome. You can't really do that with a Samsung device. Is that a deal breaker? The answer is not really, but I do kind of miss those little 2 features. Now, there are some things that I actually do love about my Samsung phone, and I didn't know this, okay guys, but I can actually turn on wireless power sharing, and I can basically just grab my AirPods right here, stick them on here, and then boom, did it light up right there? Let me see. Yeah, there you go, you see? So right there, it's actually charging my AirPods. I can put another phone on it, like this one right here, and it will actually charge the other phone. I mean, to me, that's pretty cool. Are these features that I'm probably going to use? Probably not, because I'm not going to be sharing my power with anyone unless it's like an emergency for the most sake. But yeah, like that's kind of gimmicky, but it's pretty cool. On top of that, the biggest thing that I love about this phone, man, it has to be the battery life. So right now, I literally have left about 16 hours and 13 minutes left of of power. I mean, I never have seen that on an Apple phone, okay? Most phones I would basically just go through it and burn through it. Now, yes, it does say that, but if I start being heavy with my use, that's obviously going to go down. The screen is amazing. Now remember, I was using an SC third generation, but I've also had the 14. I've also had the 13 Pro, Pro Max, all that stuff. But the screen here is amazing. Now there are some things that I do not like about this phone specifically. I don't like the repair costs, and I also don't like the repair complexity. And here's what I mean. I'm the type of guy, right? I tend to do all of my phone fixing. So yes, I buy phones, I repair them. I have my own iFixit kit right here, which is a little dirty, but it's what I use, okay? And I even have, for example, some other phones I'm working on repairing and so on. But the answer is, when it comes to Apple, it's a lot more simple to repair. Like me just basically repairing the screen is just from here. I heat it up, I take it off, I take off the clips, put a new screen on it. Here, I've seen, for example, a screen replacement video, and it's like you got to take it off from the back. And then from the back, you basically have to take literally almost everything off. And then you basically have to either buy the screen with the case and thing, or if you don't, it's a whole different process. It's just a lot more complicated. I wish, for example, companies would just make things easier to repair with the mindset of let's have people have products that just last longer, and let's just try to make money off of software, off subscriptions, whatever you want to do, but sell devices that actually last longer. So yeah, I like the battery life. I like the phone. It's pretty good. And I also like the ability of customization. I like how many more apps I actually have. But again, like these two phones, it's just more like preference. I like this one better because it gets me what I was actually looking for. More control and a better device overall for me personally. But it's not like the iPhone is bad. It's not like this phone is bad. And it's not like I'm making one of those like deviated choices of like either one is good. I've obviously made my choice. Android is the way I'm going for now. That's my choice. But it's not far off from Apple. That's my overall idea, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. How long will I be here? A while. I'll see you guys next time. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and peace. By the way, what phone are you using? And don't be afraid to switch. Give things a try. So I should definitely clarify this. It's not like I'm just buying a lot of phones and wasting a lot of money. No, I bought the iPhone 14 Pro Max for $1,000. A year later, sold it for $1,000. I bought the iPhone 13 Pro for around $550. A year later, sold it for around $620. And then I bought the iPhone 13 mini for like $400, I think it was. And then I took a loss on that one because I sold it for like $250, so I lost $150. But then I bought this phone for a pretty good discount. And the SE, I bought it for a good price, and then I basically fixed it up. And I also sold some phones here. So I kind of always am buying phones and kind of like fixing them and selling them. So although I took a loss on the mini, I do believe I made a profit with all the other phones I basically sold. So that's actually good news. So I'm still probably positive on the side of like losing money and making money when it comes to phones. Just wanted to clarify that because I don't want to be looked at as one of those people who just like buy random things and don't worry about the price. I worry a lot about the price and always getting things on a deal basis.